Welcome back to Squawk Box. Last night, the House Select Committee on China held a tabletop exercise with Wall Street executives to explore threats that the CCP poses to our economy and the financial markets. Joining us right now with some of the details, Congressman Mike Gallagher is the chairman of the China Select Committee. And we've got Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi here as well. He's a ranking member of the China Select Committee. How was dinner?
It was great. It's great to be in New York, although it's very intimidating for someone from Green Bay. The city's very large, and I feel dramatically uncool every time I'm here. But
was there anybody over dinner last night, though, that actually took the position effectively that China is not the risk that I think both of you may think it is?
I don't think anyone took that position. I think we got a lot of pushback. What was interesting, this is a scenario we played out in 2028, and it was amazing how limited our options were unless we took action today to reduce some of the coercive economic leverage that China has over us. And we saw this obviously play out in the pandemic, where they threatened to weaponize advanced pharmaceutical ingredient supply chain. And so one of the biggest takeaways, I think, is how essential it is to take meaningful action now so we have a broader array of options in the future should we confront China in a Taiwan scenario.
Are you both of you exactly on the same page? I've always thought of him as relatively hawkish. Are you as hawkish about China?
Well, I think that we are. I think we're relatively on the same page. I think that perhaps there's a different emphasis on what we need to do going forward. So I agree with Mike that we need to do a lot right now to, for instance, prevent a military move on Taiwan by China. You know, we got to prevent a war at all costs. And then we have to do what we have to do with our partners, friends, and allies to combat kind of the economic aggression. I think where we differ is on how much dialogue we need to have with the CCP right now, even as we're doing those other things.
Are you at all costs on Taiwan as a function of democracy, as a function of the semiconductor issue? You know, there's some people who say we should protect Ukraine at all costs. Other people say we shouldn't protect Ukraine at all costs, or that by protecting Ukraine, you're trying to protect Taiwan.
All of the above. I think that here's the issue, which is that if the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, moves on Taiwan, it would lead to a catastrophic war, a global depression, and tens of thousands of lives being lost on all sides. That's something we have to prevent.
Where are you on that?
I think we have many reasons for defending Taiwan. If for no other reason, our standing treaty commitments in the Indo-Pacific region we'd be unable to fulfill them if the CCP controlled Taiwan. The semiconductor issue is obviously important because it would allow them to hold the rest of the world economically hostage. And finally, I would say that we've had this debate about foreign commitments in recent years and the nature of sort of using the military to spread democracy, and that's very controversial. There's something fundamentally different about defending an existing and vibrant democracy from authoritarian aggression. And if we don't stand for that, I'm not sure what we stand for as leaders of the free world.
What do you tell Tim Cook, who's now in a situation where his phone is, you know, if you're a government official or government employee in China, it's not only that you can't take this into the building, which means you don't even want to own this phone. What do you tell Bob Iger, who's got his Shanghai Disney, huge capital investment there? What do you tell the folks at Starbucks who have, you know, I think over, what is it, more than 25,000 employees in China? I mean, what do you do?
Yeah. We've had an opportunity to talk with all these people in a bipartisan fashion on the Select Committee, and though I think they have let's say, a more dovish position on China, I think they're starting to recognize the risks of having your supply chain or your business model concentrated in China. Now, I recognize that changing that is not going to happen overnight. It's not like we can fly a helicopter over the Foxconn facilities, pick them up, and plop them into India. We need to find the right mix of sticks and carrots to make it easier over the course of a decade for a company like that to diversify their supply chain and minimize the risks they face in China.
One of the most interesting things that we've learned is that private sector companies are already doing a lot of what we are, as a governmental body, asking them to do. And so, you know, the question is, do we need to put more incentives in place to accelerate that process?
Do you believe this idea that there can be a nuanced decoupling, meaning we're going to be your best friends on climate and certain geopolitical issues and other things, on tech and some strategic issues we're going to fight you to the death? Can you actually do that? Can you thread that needle? I'm not sure.
This is probably,
as you can tell by the question, the way I'm asking the question.
This is probably where we disagree slightly. I don't. I think it creates confusion. I think you're seeing it at times in the administration right now. This idea we're going to compete, we're going to cooperate. We can't even get our language right. You know, we've moved from talking about China as a threat to now it's a challenge. Some of our allies are having the same problem. Are looking to us, and they don't understand where we stand. And I think this revival of diplomatic and economic engagement has the practical effect of slowing key defensive action.
You don't want to create a Cold War either. I mean, we had Wally, you know, the deputy secretary.
They've been waging a Cold War against us for quite some years. So we can accept that fact and take steps to defend ourselves, or we can lose it in the early stages. But it might stumble into a hot war in the process.
But you may think that. But if you, again, and I'm not going to, I'll use Tim Cook as the proxy. I don't think that Tim Cook would agree with you. He doesn't think there's a Cold War going on, right? There's a whole bunch of people who do not think that all the folks on our screen here. Elon Musk wouldn't tell you there's a Cold War happening. Folks at Nike wouldn't tell you there's a Cold War happening. Folks at McDonald's or GM wouldn't tell you there's a Cold War happening.
You just referenced a shot across Tim Cook's bow. So if he's not aware that it's happening, I think maybe he is now.
I don't think there's a Cold War happening. I mean, for the fundamental reason that we are economically conjoined. We are so interdependent. Our trade is at an all-time high, despite the fact that both Donald Trump and Joe Biden have put tariffs on our bilateral trade.
This is like a trial, and now the defense has opened up a line of questioning. You glad Trump's going to be the nominee if he is?
I want a younger nominee.
You glad Biden's going to... You want a younger... you glad President Biden's running for reelection? Do you are. Yes. And you think he is?
Yes.
You watch everything that's going on. 70% of Democrats don't want him to run. So you're in the 30%. What, just because you need someone to hold on to power?
Well, look, I think that this president, he's accomplished so much in terms of the CHIPS and Science Act, the bipartisan infrastructure bill, and other major legislative achievements that are moving our country forward.
Even if you buy that, and not all Republicans really think those are all great things that were done, but even if you buy that, he's going to be 86 years old when he's done, and Vice President Harris is waiting in the wings.
Sure. You know, sometimes, age is wisdom. I think he's shown a lot of wisdom in dealing with a very difficult Congress over the last few years. I think that going forward...
There are no age issues with you. And watching him at any of the things that we see, none of those are issues for you?
Well, I think that, I've dealt with President Biden. I'm not like best friends with him or anything, but I've dealt with him several times over the past few years. Extremely cogent, very much on top of the issues, and I think that shows in his accomplishments.
Let me make it more complicated for you.
Yes, sir.
Let's say Trump is not the Republican nominee. Let's say it's Nikki Haley or make it Chris Christie, okay? Does that change your view at all about how you would think about President Biden as the nominee?
No, I think that he is going to win. I think he's going to be our nominee, and he's going to carry the flag forward.
Don't just sit there. I can't be.
I was asking the question.
He's going to be you. I'm going to be him.
Anyone who watched Biden's performance at the G20 and that bizarre press conference, I don't think can conclude
just the latest chapter.
That's right. Okay, so put it like we do China, right? Biden is, in fact, older than the People's Republic of China by at least 5 years. So, and again, listen, our nominee will be as old, or the likely nominee will be as old as Biden was when he took office. So let us step away from the boomer sort of controlled bureaucracy and embark on a new generational shift. Actually, Biden's so old he's not even a boomer. I think he's a member of the silent generation. So I think the American people want sort of a better set of choices. But we'll see.
Okay. I too.
Yeah. We got to thank you both, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
And you can always come and you see how this works. You're both welcome, and we'll air all sides of all these things.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You okay?
I'm good.
Okay. You're okay?
I'm a Bears fan.
This is great. Yeah.
The Bears. Okay, good.